Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Let's do it. Always
Uh,
excited to dig into some insightful stuff.
Me too. Okay, so today we're going to tackle the Lean Product Playbook by Dan Olsen.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and we've got a pretty solid set of resources, right? We've got the book itself, of course,
Right.
and to get some different perspectives, we've also got a podcast episode that digs into it, and
Yeah.
even like a really concise video summary. So no matter how you like to consume information, we've got you covered.
Perfect.
But like the big question for us today is,
Yeah.
how do we take all this knowledge
Right.
and turn it into like actionable advice for building awesome products?
Exact.
Because that's what we're all about here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Making those ideas happen.
Totally. So, something that really struck me from all the materials, and maybe you saw this too,
Yeah.
was how often traditional product development just like totally flops,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
right? And it's like, why?
I think so often it's because teams get so caught up in building cool features and they jump right into solutions
Right.
without really taking the time to understand the problem they're actually trying to solve.
Totally. It's like putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And the book, along with the podcast episode, both do a really good job of highlighting this idea of problem first thinking.
Right. Which sounds pretty simple on the surface.
Yeah, it
But
does.
I feel like it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of an idea
For sure.
and totally skip that crucial step. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So the Lean Product Playbook, it basically gives us this like roadmap, this process for achieving what Olsen calls product market fit.
Mm-hmm.
And it really all starts with understanding that customer problem, like
That, yeah.
deeply, you know,
Right.
before you even start brainstorming solutions.
Absolutely.
And speaking of solutions, I think the podcast really brought this to life. Like they shared a story about this company that spent months building this like feature-packed
Mm.
product and get this, nobody wanted it.
Oh, no.
It's like the classic example of what not to do, right?
Totally.
They didn't take the time to figure out if they were solving a real problem for anyone.
Yeah, and that's where the lean product process really comes in handy. It gives you that framework, that step-by-step guide
Right.
to avoid those kinds of pitfalls.
Like it sounds almost like a recipe for success, right?
Yeah, I think so. And the podcast guests actually shared some real world examples of how using this process led them to success.
Ooh, that's cool.
So it's not just theory, it's tried and true. And essentially, the process starts with defining the problem.
Right. Back to the basics.
And
Yeah.
then figuring out who your target customer is,
Right.
coming up with potential solutions,
Yeah.
building what's called a minimum viable product,
Yes, the MVP.
and then, of course, testing and iterating based on feedback from actual customers.
Okay, so hold on. Let's break this down a little because I think MVP is one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot.
Oh, for sure.
But maybe not everyone fully understands it.
Right.
So in like simple terms,
Yeah.
what is a minimum viable product?
It's like the bare bones version of your product, the simplest version that you can put out there to get feedback and validate your assumptions.
Oh, okay.
Like instead of spending months building out every single feature,
Right, and going all in.
yeah, you create this MVP, which has just enough to test your core idea.
Right.
And the podcast episode actually used Dropbox as an example of this.
Oh, interesting.
They initially just made a video demonstrating what the product would do
Oh, wow.
before they had even built the actual file syncing infrastructure.
Huh. So it's basically about getting something out there quickly
Yeah.
and seeing if people actually like want it.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about minimizing risk, which
Yeah.
the book really emphasizes
Oh, that's smart.
because you don't want to invest all that time and energy
Right.
only to find out that nobody's interested.
Totally. And I think the podcast guest mentioned this too.
Mhm.
Like a common pitfall for product teams is,
Yeah.
falling in love with their idea
Oh, yeah, for sure.
and not actually focusing on whether it solves a real problem.
Absolutely. And the book offers this really cool concept
Okay.
called hypothesis-driven development.
Interesting.
So instead of assuming you know what customers want,
Right.
you turn your assumptions into these testable hypotheses.
Okay.
And then you use your MVP
Right.
and feedback loops from your customers
Mm-hmm.
to actually validate or invalidate those hypotheses.
So it's like a constant process of learning and adapting.
Exactly. You're always gathering data and using it to improve your product.
That makes a lot of sense.
And the book actually dives into how to set up effective feedback loops and use that data to make informed decisions about your product.
This is all super helpful, but like I'm wondering for anyone listening who's maybe working on a product
Right.
or even just has an idea they want to explore,
Hmm?
what's a good like first step they can take?
Well, I would say think about a project you're currently working on.
Okay.
Is there any assumption that you're making that you could actually test?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Like, could you create a simple landing page or a prototype to gauge interest before investing a lot of time and money into development?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Because at the end of the day, the key takeaway here is that building a successful product isn't just about having a brilliant idea.
Right.
It's about this like disciplined process of learning and iterating.
So ditch the guesswork
Totally.
and embrace the power of like actually testing and getting feedback.
Exactly. Let your users guide you.
That's awesome. Well, I think that's about all the time we have for today.
Time flies.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But hopefully this deep dive has given everyone some like solid tools to add to their product development toolkit.
I hope so.
So keep experimenting, keep learning.
And keep building amazing things.
Yes. All right. Until next time, everyone.
See ya.